Fox?
Here.
Mr. Homburg?
Here.
Mr. Stein?
Here.
Mr. Grice?
Here.
And Ms. Fallett is excused.
Great, thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of March 11th.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Any changes, corrections? No, we're good? Here she is. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. I think we're, given the agenda in front of us, we'll just keep the order of business the way it is. Is there anyone here to make an appearance that is not part of the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the appearance section. There is no unfinished business. And we'll move to number 7A, public hearing on the request by Capital City Wellness and Aesthetics LLC for approval of a zoning permit for new use at 5711 Monona Drive, case number 2-006-2024. Is there anyone here to speak to the Capital City Wellness and Aesthetic zoning permit, either on Zoom or elsewhere? You don't see anybody?
I am expecting the applicant to join by
Okay.
Zoom.
Okay.
Um,
So we could,
We could potentially move on.
yeah, why don't we move to number 7C, public hearing on the request by FAC LLC, represented by Canopy Refresh LLC for approval of a sign permit for a new comprehensive sign plan at 1220 East Broadway, case number S-007-2024. I trust since you're moving forward, that's you, sir? Yeah,
Go ahead.
great, great. If you could just tell us the sign permit you're looking for, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, what I'm applying for is a sign permit, and it's for the 1120 East Broadway, Monona. And basically, we want to convert this from a Shell gas station to a BP gas station. And on this sign, we're going to use the existing sign cabinet. We're just going to be putting different faces in. And I think the main reason that I was told that we need to come to this meeting is because the digits are bigger in one of the signs than the existing sign. So it looks like the existing regular price is a little bit bigger in the original. Now it's a little bit smaller, but the diesel's a little bit smaller. Now they're making it the same size as the regular. So really not a great change, but there's a slight change there. So. And then on the canopy itself, I don't think there was any real issue with that. It's just, instead of the Shell logo, we're going to be putting up the BP Helios logo up on the canopy. And there was a request to have signage on the store, but we're taking that request off. We're not going to be putting any signage on the store itself. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this particular zoning application? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and move to consideration of action on the request by FAC LLC, represented by Canopy Refresh LLC, for approval of a sign permit for a new comprehensive sign plan at 1220 East Broadway, case number S-007-2024. Doug?
Thank you. As mentioned, the request here is the comprehensive sign plan to reflect the rebranding from Shell to BP. This includes the refacing of the existing electronic fuel price, display landscape ground sign, fuel canopy signage, fuel pump signage, and the new wall sign was proposed, but just heard from the applicant that that's being taken away. The property at 1220 East Broadway is zoned Community Design District, and the signage will be evaluated with those standards. The landscape ground sign, buildings within the CDD are allowed one monument sign per site. Typically, they're allowed to be 60 square feet in area, 5 feet in height, and 15 feet from the street curb face. The proposal here is to reface the existing landscape ground sign, keeping the same location, and that is located about 16 feet from the curb face. It's about 43 square feet and is an existing non-conforming sign as it exceeds the height allowable by about 4.5 inches at 5 feet, 4.5 inches tall. These signs are required to be integrated with site landscaping, and currently there's minimal landscaping around the sign. As part of that sign, there is a fuel price display, which is required by Wisconsin state statute. The sizes of these will be altered just a little bit, as mentioned, for uniformity across both fuel types. And there are standards about how often these are able to change, that they must remain in place for at least 24 hours. City's sign code does address electronic message signs. Typically, these are for institutional information signs, which must be landscape ground signs. But there, in the staff report were a couple examples of exceptions for other gas stations, most recently the Cenex across the street at 925 East Broadway. The fuel canopy signage is proposed to be rebranded as part of this process as well. This includes the corporate colors, the striping around the sort of upper canopy of the existing structure, which is about 45 feet long, 28 feet wide, and also includes the logo sign. One point that was not included in the staff report to bring up is the lighting, I believe, is on all 4 faces of the canopy. Does it go all the way around?
The green,
Yes.
yeah, not the backside facing
Not the
this way,
backside.
just 3
Okay.
sides.
Okay.
And the shell has the same
Great.
right now.
Thank you. That was going to be a question, was the lighting facing the North Point project currently under construction, facing the south, the Beltline. If that's not the case, then that addresses any concern that staff has with that. There is no specification for fuel canopy signage within the city's sign code, but again, there was some reference in the staff report to the 2017 Quick Trip at 105 East Broadway, which is the most recent example. Included as well is fuel pump signage, which is to reface the 3 double-sided fuel pumps for a total of 6 pumps, changing the corporate branding, logos, text, as well as some of the identifying elements, including the numbers for the pumps, as well as a small logo there as well. And finally, the wall sign is proposed to be taken away. That was previously proposed for the convenience store elements, but that is no longer part of the request. With that, the staff recommendation is approval with findings of fact and conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. I'm actually going to start down with Chris Homburg, since that end of the table has the drafters of our sign code, our updates to sign code. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. It's a lot of signage here. You know, the sign, the logo on every single MPD, both sides and everything, is just a lot of green and yellow. One question, our packet shows signage right here on the column that says, "Come on in," and stuff like that.
I'm not aware of something like that.
Well, that wouldn't be allowed.
I don't think, you think it's maybe,
It's showing it up above the MPD, hanging on one of the columns, which you don't even have outside columns like that. You've got 2 piers or columns right in the middle, more substantial ones. I mean, one thing I thought about online, you can see where there's brick around some of them. It might be nice to have some brick around there, just something to make it tie into the building, but,
yeah, I'm not seeing this come on in thing you're talking about.
it's on our packet.
It's talking about the last page.
Well,
Yeah, it's the-
online's different, because online shows the brick too, whereas packet doesn't.
Yeah, this might not necessarily be the site, you know what I mean?
Well, we necessarily approve this site.
Yeah.
Which page? Do you have a
It's
page
the
number,
last
or-
page.
Yeah, the last one in our packet.
And it's, just above it, it
Oh, you're
says
talking about
clearance
the
of
one that says
16
no?
feet.
The
It's-
DeVoe sign?
It's so small, I can hardly read it.
Yeah, we're not asking for that sign anymore.
No. It's on the columns near the pumps themselves. It's these, like,
The page, the
Adver-
top of
it's
the
the
page, it has a
advertisement.
clearance of 16 feet in green and
Isn't that
yellow.
just extra signage?
It's that little tiny.
No, we're not even requesting that. I've never seen it before. No, we're requesting it, please.
This is like standard corporate plan, this isn't your document?
Right, they're just showing the sides and then this.
Because what Chris is saying is that like that, there would not be approved.
I don't even know what that is. This is what we're looking for right here,
Okay.
these four. And then there is pump number signs on each column.
Okay.
And that's it for
Well,
signage. It's
this-
just the pump number signs and then the helio signs on
There's
the canopy fascia.
only 2 columns and there's 3 MPDs.
Three, three pumps.
Yeah,
There's one outside the column, or one outside.
yeah, because you've got, it's not like most canopies, it's got those
There's
really
two under the
substantial.
canopy and one
Yeah.
that's not under
Yeah.
the canopy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Other than that, I would recommend that we just put in some limit to how often that sign is changeable. We don't want it flashing that here's our price or anything like that, so I'm thinking, I don't know.
The price sign is continuous, it doesn't flash.
Right, I understand, but it's a changeable copy, and we're real careful about changeable
The only
copies.
copy is the price.
Understood.
Yeah,
Don't want it changing every minute. I don't want it going like this.
it doesn't, it's continuous, it doesn't flash.
How often do you change the price?
They probably change it whenever the price changes.
Which is how often?
It could be daily, it could be weekly.
Okay, well, so
Yeah,
that
just
settles it
whenever
for
the
me.
price
So,
changes.
so we could put something in here that it can't be changed more than hourly, for example, because at least it wouldn't be then used as
Well, that would
something.
be, they would never do that.
I know that. I'm trying to make something that works for you,
Sure.
but it makes this not attractive, so somebody thinks, oh, I'll start flashing this or doing something.
Well, they don't flash, they're not made to flash.
I understand, but they can be.
No, they can't be made to flash, they're
well,
continuous.
I-
They're not,
Perhaps yours can't. I've seen,
yeah,
Signs that
these
can.
ones don't.
okay.
Right.
So I think just to protect the city so that somebody doesn't come in later and replace it with a changeable copy, we put some limit on how often that can be changed.
Right,
I think that's
I
appropriate.
can definitely go along with not having flashing signs.
Yeah.
But they don't anyhow. I don't
Yeah.
even think you can program them to.
Okay.
Got it. And
Uh,
Doug, didn't you say, just go to the point of how often, didn't you say that there was a state statute that they could only be?
I believe that they're required to be posted for 24 hours before they can be
I believe
changed.
that's the case, they can't change them more than once a day.
Okay, so we could put that in then, so they can't be changed more than daily, and that's fine with the applicant.
I would think so.
Okay.
I'm just the installer, I don't.
I understand that.
I don't
I
do
understand that.
policy like on price changes and stuff, but I don't believe that by state law they can more than
Okay,
once a day.
I understand that, but you're the only one I have to talk to.
Right.
Yeah,
But, yeah, I don't think that's an issue at all,
Okay.
so.
All
If you
right,
want to put that in there, that's fine.
okay, that's it for me,
Okay.
thanks.
Unless
Cory?
there's like a calamity and the world comes in and they raise them every 2 minutes, something like that, but
got it. Corey?
Yeah, and I think the reason that he's bringing that up is because we have to make an exception for this type of sign
why is that?
in our sign code. It's just part of our, so he's just trying to
Okay.
make sure that if
All right, 'cause
there's
it's-
another applicant in the
It's
future.
the same one as there, and if it's 4 inches high, you could add some dirt around it to make it so
Oh,
compliant.
he's talking about the landscape ground sign.
Oh, yeah, okay. So the to-go sign is no
We're not doing
longer? Okay, so what we're looking at is just this one
Just that,
page
and then the main ID sign,
in the main ID sign.
just the canopy.
Those two, okay,
Like I said, there will be some pump numbers hanging under the canopy,
yeah,
if you want to count that signage too.
okay, well, yeah, we'll have to note that, because this is a comprehensive sign plan, so we'll have to note,
And they already had existing pump numbers, so.
but you'll be changing them?
We're going to change them to, they're shell pump numbers now, and we'll just change them to the
Okay.
ones that are standard for the PP.
My only question is about the landscape ground sign, and if we do end up making, I guess, do you know how high the food mart language is? Like how much space there is between there and the ground?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Because if we ask for more landscaping, then it might cover that up. And so it would just be good to have a sense that the maybe it's gonna
Well,
be a
what kind of
condition.
landscaping would you be asking for?
Well, there was a note in the staff report that the landscaping could be, that it's currently minimal landscaping, so
So, you're looking for like flowers or?
just little, I mean, there's already a few things here, so maybe just a few small,
Because you don't want any shrubs that grow
Plantings.
too big.
exactly, that's my point. Yes, I
Right.
wanna know, I just wanna know that if we ask for that as part of our approval, that there'll be a little bit more landscaping, that it's not gonna cover up your sign. So I was
I
just
mean,
curious how
if that's-
tall the,
Has to happen, I guess they would comply with that, but yeah, that'd be out of my scope of work. But
do you know how tall the bottom of the
it's
sign
only
is?
maybe like a foot.
Okay.
It looks like on this one, it already comes up.
Covers it.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
they would just, yeah.
Yeah, it's not very high up.
It is, after all, a landscaped ground sign.
Yeah, I would think you would just have to choose stuff that wouldn't cover it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's all, I was just curious how tall it is.
Yeah, it's not very tall. The whole thing's only, what, less than 5 feet, right? Something like that.
Here over.
Yeah, or just a hair over. Let's see.
Otherwise, no
Okay.
comments.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Yeah, I have no concerns either, given that. And I assume, the current thing seems to be to put those come-on-in things on the pumps themselves. I mean, they have the TV things, and that's a different deal. That's not under our control. It's part of the pump, the existing. Yeah, I think it all looks good, and I like the green and gold colors. I mean, that's the BP thing, so it all seems very appropriate to me. And yeah, the landscaping, it does look like it could be a little nicer, but that would be something you'd have to watch. I mean, at the most, you could have something slightly taller on the sides, but there's not much room there. I think it looks like just inches.
It'd be nice if
So
you
it's
had
just-
some like some low ground cover.
Just low ground, yeah, something like that, and it's gonna stay that way, because obviously you don't want it coming up over the price either, so, yeah, it's all the same level. So
Okay.
you have what you have to work with, and I think that's fine. So no comments, other than,
John?
No comments.
Patrick?
No comments.
Okay,
No additional comments.
okay.
Rob? We got Rob on the line.
Was there something else?
Rob's up
Oh,
there.
Rob?
Hi. No additional comments. My only one was landscape plan. I understand that the copy and information is low to the ground here, but there is gap between the sidewalk and the end cap of the sign that you could accent that sign with without interfering with any visibility of the messaging.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then with that, do I have a motion?
One more question.
Yep.
I knew this note here is a requirement that the building have a store name on it, but the building won't have a store name on it? So I'm unclear.
It might be just something in the window.
Okay. So I just wonder if they're gonna come back and say that, oh, I don't know, I guess.
They may, but
Okay,
I'm just gonna tell them there's no approval for a sign in the building.
okay.
So they might just, right now, what they have for the store name, they just got like white vinyl lettering in the window right now. And
Oh,
that's-
okay.
they want the store identified when customers come up, you know, so.
Just for clarity, we keep saying they, is that the owners?
What's that?
Who's they?
That's
The owners?
BP requirements.
Oh, BP,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
But-
BP sets
Yep.
standards that the owner can't really change them.
Okay. But actually, to follow up on John's question, is the ownership of the station actually changing, or is it just
It's the same
changing the
owner,
brand? Same owner?
Signed a new contract with a different fuel supplier.
Okay.
To clarify that, the Chiefs don't own it anymore. Somebody bought it from the White Horses, right?
What's that?
The White Horses no longer own it, correct? Last time we saw this for approval, it was the White Horses, and I believe there's a different name on the applicant. Someone
there
different
is, yeah.
owns the store than last time we made any approvals here. So for us, the ownership has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any recent ownership change. I really don't know the owner at all. I'm hired by the fuel supplier to come and do the install and obtain permits for them.
Okay.
So I've never met the owner.
Okay.
He may
Great.
have bought the existing Shell station. That's what you said, right? That the current owner owns the Shell station, but he's changing to a different fuel. So there was a change in ownership.
They do it for financial reasons.
Right.
and
No,
their
no, that makes
supplier will give
sense.
them a good deal.
Sure.
Right.
So
Right.
much
Just
off,
related to
and
the
they
ownership
own it or whatever for a number of years if they sign a contract. It's all about the money.
Sure.
Right. Understood. So, do we have a motion, Chris?
I'll move approval, condition 1 through 3 is written, well, we have a finding of facts is written by staff, and then conditions 1 through 3 is written by staff, condition 4 is written by staff, but add on with, changes allowed only daily changes allowed on the
Okay?
display. Condition 5, that this approval does not include any signage on the building. Condition 6, that there's no lighting on the canopy to the south. And condition 7, that there's no additional signage being approved on the canopy posts.
Okay, yeah. It'll just be the pump number flags.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay,
I have-
actually, can I have a second first?
Second.
Yeah, I
Second.
was
Okay,
just gonna ask
then
for a
can we
second.
do a change to this based on you and I, that there's no additional signage on the canopy posts other than pump number? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
That takes care of your concern. We understand there'll be pump numbers.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Anything else you need from me?
No,
We'll
that's
be in
good.
touch.
Remember the last one?
No.
We have two
Oh,
more.
yeah.
We have some
Everybody
others.
else is by Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
We have the next applicant.
Okay. And we'll go to number 7E, public hearing on the request by Mala Yoga Center, represented by Grant Signs for approval of a sign permit for a new wall sign at 103 Owen Road, case number S-009-2024. Mala Yoga, or Grant Signs, welcome. The floor is yours for the public hearing.
This is Dan at Grant Signs.
Sorry, the floor is yours for whatever you would like to share with us during this public hearing portion.
I'll go first, Kat. This is Dan from Grant Signs. We did have in the application packet a rendering showing the sign that is proposed. This is actually a relocation of an existing sign that was installed several years back. I don't have the exact timing in front of me. But Kat has moved her business approximately a block from where it was on Monona Drive onto Owen Road. And the rendering that we see there shows the sign, a portion of the sign that was approved several years ago being relocated to the new location. I say portion of the sign is because when the sign was originally approved, it had a second element to it, which was a large circular logo element. But we have elected to not relocate that because there really wasn't an appropriate space on the building for that to fit. And so the sign being the name of the business, to be relocated as shown on the rendering that was provided in the application materials. I'll happily answer any questions specifically to the sign itself and would like to see if, Pat, you would like to add anything regarding your business relocation to this space.
Thank you, Dan. Would you like to add anything during the public hearing portion? Kat?
No, thank you. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll close the public hearing portion and move to 7F, consideration of action on the request by Mali Yoga Center, represented by Grant Signs for approval of a sign permit for a new wall sign at 103 Owen Road, case number S-009-2024. Doug?
Thank you. The sign permit here, new wall sign at 103 Owen Road. This is the relocation of the sign from the previous location, 5.6 square feet, facing south, and it's an LED illuminated cloud cabinet. The property is zoned retail business, and it does fall within the Monona Drive urban design guidelines. This is 103 Owen Road is also associated with 5711 Monona Drive, and that property we'll be discussing in a second, but it is a separate building. This is more of a traditional single-family style home from the street, and so they are separate buildings as far as the uses, and Mala Yoga has relocated to the site. Wall signs in this district are allowed 1 square foot per foot of building facade, and as shown in the application materials, that's about 22 feet long. So the signage, the area falls within that. The proposed sign is has white polycarbonate faces with printed vinyl and internal LED lighting. The building's allowed 1 on-building sign for each business on each building facade, abutting a public street frontage. This is the only one that fronts Owen Road. And just as a point of clarification, the city sign code does not address non-conforming lots with multiple principal buildings on it. With that, the recommendation is approval of the sign permit with the finding of fact and 2 conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Yes.
Thank you. Doug, you want to start at this end this time?
I have no comment. I think the sign looks fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no issues with the sign. It's fine.
John?
Nothing from me?
Okay. Susan?
Yep, no issues, looks fine to me.
Okay. Corey?
I think it looks nice.
Okay. Chris?
Oh, oops. Yeah, I think if I were going to pick a sign for this building, it's about I understand why we're doing this one, but it's the last one. I mean, you have an old classic building that's been preserved. It should have an old-fashioned painted sign with curly cues and you know, lights hanging over it, illuminating it. But I understand you're moving the sign from another location. Just want to do it. If you look at the sign, it doesn't fit with the building at all. But because it's an existing sign and moving there, I can live with it. My question is, why didn't this use have to have a zoning permit?
I worked with the applicant, and the use aligned with what was previously there.
But it hasn't been there for 6 months.
Sorry?
The use, the hair piece and everything, that's been gone a long time.
There was discussion.
So it's just like the one that we're going to do next. There's been nothing in that building. I'm just surprised why we're just glossing over approving a new use.
That was, it was a decision I made administratively. I spoke with the building owner as well as the tenant. Really, the determination was that it was compatible, and so that was made administratively. But I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, that's not one actually they have authority to make administratively. When we changed our ordinance, we changed it for a reason, so that when buildings are empty for 6 months or more, there's a chance to go back and look at that building and how it's being used and landscaping, all the items about it, parking, look at all those things and make sure we're bringing it up to current codes. That's I would say not something that can be waived for future. I mean, that's something that Plan Commission needs to approve.
Okay. Anything else?
Rob?
I have no additional comments. Everyone's good.
Okay. Thank you. With that, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve with finding facts.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second.
That's really loud.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Kat.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we'll move back to 7A, public hearing on the request by Capital City Wellness and Aesthetics LLC for approval of a zoning permit for new use at 5711 Monona Drive, case number 2-006-2024. I believe the applicant is online.
We were expecting them. I don't see them online. I
Okay.
can give an overview if
Okay,
that would be appropriate.
that'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So the request here is for a zoning permit. The applicant, which is KTKB Holdings, is looking to purchase this property. The previous use here was the Ultimate Salon. The primary tenant here would be Capital City Wellness and Aesthetics. They're an existing Monona business, currently located at Crawford's Landing at 115 East Broadway. Looking to assume a portion of this property. They would not be taking the whole square footage, it's about 7,200 square feet. Currently, they'd be looking at about 2,000 square feet of this. In addition, as mentioned, there is the other property that is associated with this, 103 Owen Road, which is where the Mali Yoga is located. They do have shared parking between the two of them, so there's the property on Monona Drive that has the frontage, and there's nine stalls, I believe, there. 31 stalls in the rear that are accessed by from Owen Road as well. The overview application includes hours of operation, typical hours 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday by appointment only, expecting approximately 40 customers per day, and minimal deliveries. The use is wellness and aesthetics use, and offering different professional services in that building. You can see right now that there's minimal exterior build out that is proposed, really with sort of interior renovations and more sort of paint and cosmetic changes, as I understand it, that is being proposed at this point. So it would not be to assume the full space. There may be future expansion of the current tenant, Capital City, but there may also be additional tenants that would locate here.
So can you clarify, sorry, they're purchasing a portion of the building?
Purchasing the whole building, looking to...
Okay. I thought you said they were only
I'm sorry.
using a portion?
They're only using, yes.
They're purchasing the whole
Yeah.
building, but they're only using a portion?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. Appreciate it. Okay, since there is no one else here for the public hearing portion, I will close the public hearing portion and move to consideration of action on the request by Capital City Wellness and Aesthetics LLC for approval of a zoning permit for a new use at 5711 Monona Drive, case number 2-006-2024. Doug?
Thank you. Just a couple elements to add here. So the request here is for 5711 Monona Drive. It's been vacant for more than 6 months, requiring the Plan Commission review. The zoning district here is retail business. The most former use there was the Ultimate Salon, located along Monona Drive, and the urban design guidelines do apply to this building. The comprehensive plan shows this both in current and future use as commercial in designation. The proposal would take about 2,000 square feet of the 7,200 square foot building. The recommendation is that any new tenants receive zoning permit approval and review prior to occupying the space. Parking standards for this, retail stores and service uses, are to provide 1 parking stall for each 300 square feet of gross floor area. The building listed at 7,200 square feet would necessitate 24 stalls. There are 40 total, including 2 handicap stalls, 1 in front, 1 in the rear, accessed off Owen Road. The Mali Yoga building is approximately 1,881 square feet, and would also need to would be held to similar parking standards. In terms of shared parking, there could be some discussion about that if there's any designation of these stalls. They're not currently designated for one use or the other. Given the cyclical nature of the use, appointment only, and really sort of the standard operating hours, it appears that the parking is sufficient. Staff did notice some faded parking stalls and striping during the site visits, so that may be something to discuss. No changes are currently proposed to the landscaping at the site. It looks to be in good condition for this time of year. It does comply with the urban design guidelines in that it has a buffer, a landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the building and the parking, even though the parking is sort of pull in towards the building. Typical hours, 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, appointment only, Saturday, Sunday. Signage is still being finalized by the applicant, still sort of evaluating the canopy signage that is there and how that can be repurposed. But staff will work with them on any future application and also any temporary signage, window signage and the like that they may be looking for. With that, staff recommendation is approval. Thank you.
Yeah. As to not leave you out, Rob, would you like to start on this one?
Yes, please. I have no issues with the intended use.
You have no problem?
Nope.
Okay. Chris?
I have a couple problems. I disagree with your analysis of the landscaping. It's horrible. And the only landscaping, that building is paved from it's building and pavement all the way to the road except for that narrow little strip we did with the Monona Drive rebuild, and that strip is in horrible shape. The plantings, most of the ones that were planted are gone. Now, when Debbie was there, she did a great job. She always had flowers and different things going there, but she's not there anymore, so we have to make sure the applicant realizes that they are responsible for that, and that is the landscaping on the site. That, and she also had some of those really huge pots up on the sidewalk. They're gone. And when we approved the use and the rebuilds there, we said, let's get something going. So she put those big pots in with flowers and a few low bushes or trees, did all the landscape up front, but that's all we have, and that needs to be there. Otherwise, there's nothing. Right now, the rock is overgrown with grass. So you can tell nobody's been taking care of it for a while. The other thing I noticed when I was there is there's some fencing in the rear that's been put up to enclose the electric meters and a few things that's falling off its brackets and sitting there cockeyed. That should be fixed. But for me, the biggest issue is the landscaping, because there's so little on Monona Drive, and we worked so hard to get something in there, and it's basically all gone. And as far as the designating parking, I think with all the stalls, they don't need to. They have plenty of parking there. But I would like to just get in my soapbox for a quick minute and say this is the type of building that we used to have up and down Monona Drive where buildings were allowed with virtually no parking. And when it got converted to the spa, they couldn't have, I mean, there was fights between Ken's and this place and all of the places up and down Monona Drive. And what Debbie finally did is she bought the house behind her and built that parking lot. Before that, she had a rental agreement with Angelo. But she actually built that and she solved the parking problems. But most of these buildings, we don't have that. That's why I'm so nervous when people say, well, for this use, we don't need that much parking. I think it's really important to look at the square footage of building we're putting there. What can be the future use? And just make sure we're covered, because this was a prime example where she finally built a parking lot and it functions great. And I think there's plenty of parking. With that parking lot, there's plenty of parking for both these uses. It might depend if they have a really intensive use for the other 5,000 square feet of the building, but for now, I don't see any issues.
Okay. Corey?
I don't have a problem with the use. I was curious if they have been talking with other tenants already for the other 5,000 square feet.
I did not get the sense in speaking with the owner that they were thinking about that. I think the goal right now is to be able to relocate the business to go through the purchase process. It is a little confusing, but it's ultimately the same owner between the LLC and the capital city, same person that's involved. So they're looking to purchase that, move in, and make those improvements sort of on a staggered process. I think they've looked at it, that there's future growth there, opportunities. I think it is a big building, so that there's definitely opportunity there. And I would suggest that it would be compatible uses that they'd be looking for, sort of similar health, wellness, that type of thing.
Well, and you were talking, in the staff report, you mentioned that they're finalizing their plans for building signs, but without knowing, I guess, I'm still relatively new, even though I've been here for a little while. So if this use is approved and then they come back and there's signs, but then, a year later, there's other uses they need more signs, they just would come back with a different sign package? Or do you know if it's going to be a consideration for like a modular sign, something like, I'm thinking of what is the name of that?
Confectionique.
Yes, yeah, with that ability to have multiple names.
I would say in that location, it's going to be difficult to have a landscape sign, just with the fact that it would need to be parallel with the street. I think there are challenges with that. My expectation is that the allocation would be frontage based, the tip 1 square foot per foot, okay. And that if this owner wanted to come in and use all of that for their own business to start with, but ultimately a revision would need to be most likely reskinning that sign or something to divide it up. What I've seen in the past is it's often done by square footage for the tenants. If you've got a third of the building, you get a third of the signage or something like that. So With the canopy, it's a little different, that there's probably opportunity to kind of stack signage or,
Yeah.
to have sort of one above another if it were just a name or a business title, but that, I mean, that's design related. So I think it would be sort of, ultimately, I would imagine it's frontage based, and it's not going to be number of businesses or anything.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I have no problem with this as a use, though.
Susan?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate use also. I had no problem to it. My only question was, I think because of the, the usage of the yoga center and the usage of the times will be somewhat different. There won't be a lot of overlap, because I do remember Ken's gets really busy at sometimes, and their parking goes up against the side of that building. But I have seen people park in front of this building to get into Ken's. So they're gonna have to work that out if that becomes an issue. I mean, there should be enough parking otherwise. And that was my only thought, is if they get another tenant, it'll depend on what they get. But that would be the question to be answered at that point, not now. So for now, I think this looks fine. And I agree with the comments that have been made about the landscaping. There does need to be some attention paid. I'd be comfortable with having that put in with approval by staff, but just to know that there needs to be some upgrade to that.
Thank you. John?
I don't have any issues with the use.
Okay.
I guess I have two questions or comments. One is, on their floor diagram, is north to the left? Just for my own clarity. So
That was my assumption.
Monona Drive is at the top? Yeah,
Yeah, it must be because the doors there.
does that seem right? Okay.
North would be to the
North
right.
is to the right.
To the right, yeah.
To
The
the-
front
Is
door
east.
is.
Which
the front
means
door
that
is
the
east, yeah.
Monona
Front
Drive
door's
would be
at the
to the,
bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Monona
that's
Drive's at the
east.
bottom.
Because that faces the drive.
Because the front door's in the middle, and then there's
Right.
access to the rear. The two doors would be
It's
east and
an
west.
excellent question, but the way the spas are set up now, I know the inside of the building, they're all over there on the south face, so, yeah.
Okay.
You're right, it's hard to tell from the sketch.
Yeah.
And then the parking comment, forgive me for not knowing my own city's retail parking guidelines, but typically it'd be 6,000 per square foot, which would put us at 42 stalls, I think, for 7,200 square feet for retail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a great comment, everybody's going to make it. It depends on who they get for a tenant, and that's the problem with a multi-tenant building is, you make the owner aware of that, but it's up to them who they rent the next one to. So if they do another thing with spas and there's 20 spa spaces in the next one, then you're going to start having problems with parking.
Okay.
But I think it's a comment well made and should be noted in the minutes and let the owners know.
No further comments.
Okay. Thank you. Patrick?
I'm fine with the use. Landscaping could be improved, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So, fine with the use, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with the intended use, and I agree with Chris's comments.
Okay. Anything else? Do I have a motion? Chris?
I'll move approval with recommendations as written by staff. Add number 4, that the landscaping, repair, and rejuvenation as discussed should be performed and approved by staff. And 5, repair of the fencing in the rear of the building.
Okay.
A second.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. With that, we will move to reports of staff and commission members. Staff report regarding development projects.
Thank you. Just a couple items coming forward. The big one next meeting is going to be the Owen Road project, the Village Lanes. That site is going to be returning for a revision to the GDP. So it's going to be a pre-hearing for the general development plan. The proposed changes are substantial enough to the previously approved GDP. This will be starting the discussion again, and would be the first meeting as part of that discussion. So that is scheduled for the April 22nd meeting, and I'm also expecting a new business further up the drive, zoning permit for that as well. Same meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any updates on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Nothing from staff.
Anything on sustainability?
Nothing from staff.
I would just point out that we're inching up to Earth Day, April 20th. There'll be a cleanup at San Damiano, followed by a volunteer appreciation event over at Hanks in the Auto, which is next to the Muskie. As part of the Earth Day activities, and on the 22nd, which is Monday, the Parks and Rec Department is also doing a, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's a contest, cleanup contest,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I think winner gets like $100 for the most trash they pick up.
Yeah, in the rest of the parks throughout the city,
Is
so,
that by weight?
I don't know.
I think it's by weight.
Yeah. We've talked about the upcoming meetings already. We're good. Any plan commission requests for information? Chris?
Question, the one that's coming back on Owen Road, I mean, I've heard so many different versions. Is there still a post office in it?
No.
Okay. And the other thing I just want to clarify, I was remote last time, and you had asked me about the genesis of that detention basin, and I was still, I don't like being remote, but, and I mentioned it was a vacant lot, which it was, but technically it was a park when we did it.
Yes.
That was a city park, and the city felt strong enough about cleaning that water up that we gave up the city park to be able to build that detention basin. It's important because the people are coming back in that whole area of the lake saying, what are we going to do to clean this up? Because it's a disaster on that end, but
Right,
as much sediment as we capture there, we're not capturing near enough,
right.
because that used to be all sand, and you've seen it. You could walk out before the lakes came up. It's a mud patch now from all
Yeah.
the sediment. I'm not sure why there's so much more sediment now than there used to be years ago, but there sure is.
Yeah. Okay.
And how does the retention pond work in terms of cleanup of like plastic and stuff that ends up in there? Because there's all kinds of stuff in there.
Well, when it overflows, it can get in the lake otherwise.
Right.
All the floatables and all the larger pieces are stopped. The way it's supposed to drain is a gabion basket at the end.
Right,
Which-
then who cleans that up, like, or who checks
Our
that?
public works crews go in there periodically. I
Okay.
don't know how much.
I wasn't
Patrick
sure.
might know, and it's built with concrete pavers in the bottom, so a loader can get right in there and not damage the bottom. So they can drive, the way it's built, they can drive right in there to make it easy to clean, and because we knew we'd have to do it often.
Right,
And they can drive right down there with heavy equipment, load it up on trucks and take off, and the truck can sit up where it won't track. So the system is good, it's just not a
Yeah.
big enough system.
right, yeah.
Do we know when, by any chance? I know that the bloom was kind of dormant during the winter months, but aren't they supposed to pick back up in the spring?
Yes, so they're working with city staff as well as Viobeca right now to finalize the engineering comments.
Okay,
Still a few steps to go in terms of recording the CSM, a lot of legal documents, easements, things like that. So working on those to record the CSM, and then ultimately they'd come through for building permits after that. But I believe they're working with the state in terms of their plan review to sort of tee those things up. But a lot of detail in terms of the environmental, the stormwater elements and things like that. So
okay,
it's working behind the scenes, even if the site's dormant right now.
okay. Thank you.
Can I ask in regards to that, is there a contention between our consultant and them as to what should be done? Or is it, you say working on the details, it's been a long time?
No, not specifically. I think the silver cells, I believe they're called, were a little different than normal,
Yeah.
than would
Yeah.
typically be seen. But I think generally there's agreement with that, so I wouldn't say there's been too much back and forth. Really, just a lot of elements being reviewed
Okay.
and things.
The reason I say that is, you're the intermediary. If we have an applicant that's really struggling getting approvals from our consultant and things, you always have the ability to bring it back and say, Plan Commission, is this okay? Is this what you believe in? We have the ability to rule on that too, because there can be times where they just don't agree on how to solve a problem. And that happens. That doesn't make one wrong or one right. They see it different ways, and if they are at that, they can always come back and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do. Is that okay? So I mean, if you have an applicant that's really struggling getting approval, that's always available.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks.
And just want to make a comment as it relates to the other things that are underway. If you haven't spent any time driving behind the Shell station where the development, I mean, they're moving at lightning speed back there. It's pretty
Yeah.
exciting to see it go up so fast, and I know their intent is to be,
This summer, potentially, some of the
summer, yeah.
townhome units,
Yeah.
Depending if we can secure the site. But yeah, everything operational by the end of the year is the requirement from WIDA. So that's the absolute end. If they can move folks in beforehand, and it's safe to do so, we will.
great. Thank you. Any other questions or requests for information? If not, I'd be delighted to take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.